I always say there's two reasons you ride roller coasters, or two different reasons you ride roller coasters. One, to just have, out of body, thrilling, crazy experience. And then the other one is to just laugh and have a good time, forget about everything.
That is Bryant Olivera, who's here to talk about recording a roller coaster review video for every day of 2023 on his channel, Coaster 365. You're listening to the Tomorrow Society podcast. Hey there, thanks for joining me here on episode 205 of the Tomorrow Society podcast. I am your host, Dan Heaton. Really excited about this episode with Bryant Olivera of Coaster 365. Throughout this year, I have found myself watching his videos, especially because they arrive every day, and each one is about a new roller coaster where Bryant basically talks about the history of the coaster, records in front of it, has some great off-ride footage, and then gives his review. I love ratings and putting things in lists and everything else, and so does Bryant, so I really appreciate his ratings that are on a 10-point scale but can go up to the hundreds place. So you're really on like almost 1,000-point scale in a certain way. And just really fun to hear him go through all these different Disney coasters, coasters in Colombia and France, lots of the ones you would expect, the real giants in the industry from RMC and at the biggest parks around the country and the world, but then also small ones that I know nothing about. So it's been fun there too. And I found myself, especially this summer, I wasn't able to go to parks for a while, and I found myself really appreciating that every day I would get to see and learn about a new coaster, some that I had never heard of. So I was really happy to speak to Bryant. We learned about his background, a lot of interest in Walt Disney World. I promise there's a lot of Disney talk, especially about coasters and Bryant's trip to Disneyland Paris, along with him talking about his channel and some of his favorite roller coasters. So let's get right to it. Here is Mr. Coaster 365 himself, Bryant Olivera. Bryant, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, Dan, thank you so much. Like, truly, it is an honor. I mean, you have a very significant following, so it means the world that you ask little old me to, and I still feel like I'm little old me. So it means the world for you to have me on.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've gotten so used to what you popped up on like Coaster Studios with Taylor Bybee and Sarah, but also I'm so used to watching your channel this year where it's like, because it's every day, it's just like, oh, he's on my screen right here on Zoom. He's like, the guy's always all over the world. He's in Colombia and Paris and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
But I also know too, though, from watching your videos, and you've done some at Walt Disney World, but I know you're also a big Walt Disney World fan. So I'd love to start with just learning how you grew up going there and kind of that made you interested in theme parks and everything else.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I am above all else, even a roller coaster enthusiast. I am a mostly Walt Disney World diehard fan. I first went just before my 5th birthday in 1993. And I pretty much went, obviously thanks to my parents, I didn't.
Yes.
Pretty much went, I paid my own fare when I was 4. No, pretty much went every year or every other year through the 90s until I graduated from college. I think I went say 12, 13 times in 16, 17 years. Probably a good half of the history of Walt Disney World I've been going, which is kind of nuts when you think about it. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm really big on trivia. I've always been big on trivia since the very beginning. Like when I was 10, 11 years old, I would get, and I still have the books. It's like Disney World Trivia Volume 3 and Volume 4. and it says 1999 and on the front page. I'm like, wow, I've been doing this a long time. I love Disney World so much. It's still my favorite place, I think, in the world. If I had one day to live, I think I would probably choose the Magic Kingdom or something.
Yeah, no arguments here. Yeah, I don't know if you like trivia. Disney World is a good place to do that because
So
there's
much.
so much. Well, what were some of your favorite attractions growing up, whether they're coasters or not, that kind of drew you into it?
Well, it's funny because this is kind of how my roller coaster journey started. I didn't like roller coasters until I was like almost 30. I was afraid. But then as a kid, I was afraid of all the Disney rides as well. And famously, my parents would take me on the ride. They would describe it a little bit, and I was crying. I'm like, there's going to be a big drop, a big scare. 99% of the time after the ride, I would say, well, that wasn't bad. And that started with Big Thunder Mountain, that very first trip in 93, my first ever roller coaster. And ever since, I guess I didn't know it then, but I think after that first ride is when like the enthusiast gears truly started turning. Took another like 25 years before they were fully spinning, but yeah, Big Thunder Mountain will always hold a special place. Splash Mountain, I mean that opened in '92, I believe. So
Right.
really, my first trip I was almost there for opening. Always love that attraction. Understand the changes now. I'm excited for the new version. And then growing up more into like my teenage years, I love Test Track. Rock and Roller Coaster was my first roller coaster with an inversion. That's a whole other story where I'm like, I'm going to be so mad after riding this. Of course, I loved it. So yeah, though I think and Space Mountain too. So those are like my core 5 rides, I think, from 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think about it too. Very similar for me. I don't know if the zero coaster idea. I think mine was Space
Mhm.
Mountain when I was 8, and I was a very scared kid of roller coasters. Actually, you said 30. That makes me feel a little better because I was not really into coasters much until like I was in college, and then you'd go to like Six Flags here, and people in college like, we're going to go on this, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll go on Batman. I don't know, I don't this, and that was like that's intense. But
Oh
similar
yes.
thing where it's like, I mean, late in life. So I'm curious for you, when did the switch get flipped? Where you said you were around 30. Where because now, I mean, it seems like you're up over 365 coasters. Nothing to do with the channel, just how many, your coaster count's getting up
Yeah, no, I'm up
400. So,
420 at this
oh,
point, which is
wow. So
wild.
I'm way
Yeah.
behind on YouTube now, yeah. So over 400. So, I mean, when did it get where you were like, okay, I want to ride every coaster I can?
So I don't think it was my freshman year of college. Some of my friends said, "Let's go to Six Flags New England," which is my home park. And I'm 19. I can't at this point be like, "No, I'm afraid." Like I gotta go. I gotta suck it up. So that was my first time ever riding an inversion outdoors. Anyway, not including Rock and Roller
Right.
Coaster. Survived. I liked it. And then I'm like, okay, I can finally do like Hulk and Dueling Dragons at Universal. So that was next, and I did those at like age 21. Still wasn't like I could do inversions. Still wasn't keen on like the big 200-foot roller coasters like Superman at New England.
Right.
That ride terrified me for 15, 16 years. It wasn't until 2017 when my girlfriend Megan, who is now my wife, said, "Let's go back to Six Flags New England." It was my first time with her, first time with some of our friends, and again, I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna ride Superman, aren't we?" Like, this was only 6 years ago, so
It's
let's
crazy.
get it over with. Yes, and Superman was actually closed that day. Weirdly, I was happy, which is so weird to say now. But the last ride we did that day was a ride called Wicked Cyclone, which is from a manufacturer called Rocky Mountain Construction, RMC. I'd never heard of them
Yes.
before. Megan's like, "Oh yeah, it's half steel, half wood." I'm like, "What? They can do that now?" Okay. I got on. I had never experienced. I've never experienced a roller coaster that smooth. The airtime was incredible. That was it. For whatever reason, that just like, wow, if this is what roller coasters can do now, it just like, and I'd always been interested in like, despite being afraid of them, I always knew like the tallest. I knew about
Mhm.
King Ka, rides like Millennium Force at Cedar Point. I used to watch the shows as a kid, even if I was terrified. So like the gene was already there. I think I just finally needed to fully embrace it, and Wicked Cyclone did that for me. And the rest is history. Then I just dove into YouTube. You mentioned Taylor, like Coaster Studios Well, he was my Bible. Like I learned so much from even he'll. I make fun of him now because his videos from like 8, 9 years ago he hates versus the quality he puts out now.
Right.
But they were perfect for me because that's how I learned like what the different parks were, like Kings Island, and I didn't know about Kings Island or Six Flags Fiesta Texas, or what Gerstlauer or B&M was. Taylor helped me learn that, and I thank him to this day.
I mean, same for me. I mean, you mentioned RMC. I mean, I can name most of them, and I haven't ridden most. Outlaw Run, I've ridden Goliath, a few others, but
Mhm.
it's like, but even through channels like his, and then even some podcasts, but especially through that, where yeah, it's like you learn a lot just watching it kind of soaked in. For me, it hasn't been that long, but watching 4 or 5 years ago,
Mhm.
and it makes it fun because then you kind of know the insider side of it, where it's not just like, oh, that coaster looks scary. You're like, oh wait, no, that's an RMC, that's good, or oh no, that's we don't want to do that boomerang or whatever. So, I mean,
Right.
what was it like for you to connect with people like that? Like where you got into it and then you found there were all these other people that now are appearing on videos and stuff, but that also were as obsessed.
So funny, like I didn't reach out. Like I'm a semi-private guy. I was just really online until like 2021. And I reached out to I have a mutual friend named Jack. He's Thrilling Moments Photography on
Mhm.
social media, his Instagram, Twitter. And honestly, he had followed me for a few years on Twitter. Finally reached out. I saw you had a podcast, and I was like, "Hey, if you ever need a guest, like, I'd be willing to hop on." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've been a fan of yours for a few years. Let's do it." Through him, I met another podcast called The Drunk Riders,
Mhm.
who are a bunch of three, great guys. They like to have some fun at parks, and they were just creating a roller coaster club called Buzz Bars. Joining them, it was actually perfect timing because they just started the club. I just started getting involved more actively in the community, and kind of just went from there. And that's how I've met so many people since then, and now I have so many like really really close friends through that, and I guess the rest is history from there.
That's crazy. It's only been a few years because, watching
Yeah.
the videos online, I would have guessed it was longer, even knowing that you hadn't gotten into it as much. Well, then, I know you had your Coaster Say 365 Instagram and Twitter and all that, but when did you well, actually, I'll circle back a little bit. When did you decide to start those where, you haven't been online as much and then you decided to start these social media accounts where you're putting something about a coaster every day?
So I have always been, because like daily life, it can suck. It's not
Sure.
it's not the best, and I've always enjoyed the like those page of day calendars, whether it's like Jeopardy questions, trivia, crosswords, just a little daily stimulation to kind of escape for a little bit. And 2017, when I was researching all these facts about roller coasters, I'm like, oh, there's got to be one for roller coasters. Like, and I looked everywhere, there was none. I mean, you had your standard like 12-month calendars that some people sell, which are great, but none of the page a days. So I'm like, oh, I'm bummed. So I'm like, well, you know what? Why don't I kind of do that on Twitter? See where it goes. Just do a different roller coaster every day. Some fun facts, year it opened, the stats, any little nuggets about it, and just started doing that. I didn't expect it to like really take off, but I started gaining a little bit of a following, and now it's up to like 6,500 followers on Twitter, which is or X, whatever it's called,
Just call it
whatever
Twitter.
it's
We're
called
not
now.
doing
Yeah,
that.
appreciate it. Yeah, I know, and it's been pretty crazy, and just through that idea, that's how I've finally found like a legit hobby for the first time in my life, which has been incredible.
Well, that's awesome. So now the big question though, last year I assume you come up with this idea, okay, I'm going to do this YouTube channel. And I know it doesn't sound like you have a lot of tech background with shooting and all that.
No,
Nothing against
far
the
from
videos.
it.
They've improved so
Yeah,
much in the past,
I appreciate that. Yes,
I have a YouTube channel and I don't know what I'm doing right now, so
I
I
still don't know what
understand.
I'm doing. I'll be honest.
But what made you decide, okay, I'm going to take on this big project, not just start a YouTube channel, but have a video every day reviewing, like you being there, not reviewing like from afar, but
Mhm.
you being in the park, riding and reviewing a coaster?
So the YouTube idea actually wasn't that far from the Twitter idea in 2018. It was just about executing it. And like I just mentioned, I am not great with tech, like awful. Like this is like this is my first time using Zoom, talking with you right now. So that's how educated I am in technology. So it was just real hesitation of like, I could put something out there, but I don't know what I'm doing. But I guess a few years went by. I started meeting people, started watching more YouTube, and I'm like, okay, if I guess I don't need to have like top notch equipment. I don't need to necessarily because those channels are out there. I don't
Right.
need to be like another Taylor or another like Airtime Thrills, Theme Park Crazy, these El Toro Ryan, these super huge channels. I'm gonna try to do something creative I don't think is out there, which is a daily, semi-quick roller coaster review. And I feel like I just use my iPhone. I don't have a camera, and it all honestly, it's my Megan, my wife, has been my ultimate supporter. I would not be doing this without her. Her support of she gets angry at me if I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to finish the year, and she's like, no, you're finishing the year. So she's actually motivated me more than anything else. So having that support has just been, I can't tell you how much it means. And yeah, we've been going every day. We're in getting towards the end of August. And I actually have enough videos to at least go through middle October. So I only have about 70-ish more to film, which is kind of crazy. So
Wow, that's crazy if you really think about how many you've done. Because I started
right.
watching, it was a few months into the year before I caught on, and then I went back and watched like the first few months or whatever, and even
Oh my
then, just
gosh.
you got it. There was a nice evolution there, but I'm curious about the planning too, because you're not obviously you're not every day going and shooting
No.
one coaster. You're going to like Kings Island, for example, and you're going to shoot 10 or 12 or however many, or Great
Right.
America the same way. So is it that hard to plan? Like, okay, because you don't know, like you went to Worlds of Fun and Zambezi Zinger was closed, which that stinks. But
Yeah.
you have
That
to
was a
plan
bummer.
around that. Like, how hard is it to plan how you're going to get to that? Given travel and you live on the East Coast and you're going all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, I figured out that there's probably between 400 and 500 coasters in the US. And then if I am able to go internationally, like even if I don't do all the kiddie rides, there's 365 out there at least that are, even if some rides are closed, it was doable. I didn't start, I started filming in June of last year. So I really gave myself like a year and a half to get everything done. And I had like almost 3 months of reviews done before the channel even went live on New Year's Day, which was a little scary because I'm like doing all this filming without any sort of feedback. So that was a little intimidating. But no, it's just a matter of honestly to save on my costs is do I know someone that's available at this city that I can stay with them, save on hotels, save on transport? Can I find a cheap flight for a certain weekend? Do they have a park nearby? That's kind of how I've been planning it, really. If there's some like coaster event, then I went to like a coaster. There's another club called Coaster Crew. They had an event in Dollywood. I'm like, oh, that's when I'm going to do the Dollywood coasters. They're having another one in Virginia coming up. Well, I'm going to finish up Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and Kings Dominion. So it's been a mixture of all those things that I just mentioned as far as planning goes. I still don't know. Like, it's not like I had this grand plan of like, okay, I'm definitely doing this park for August 30th
Right.
or
It's a little more freewheeling, I think.
yeah, for sure.
So I want to ask you, the other unique thing is your rating system. You did not say I'm going to do 1 through 5 stars or 1 through 10. You're doing with decimal places to the hundreds. But I'd love for you to
Yes.
explain. I know you did early on, but like how you consider, what a 6 is or an 8, or kind of how that came together.
Yeah, I wanted to basically have them try to compare every single roller coaster that I do on one scale, where like the truly elite rides are 9s, very, very good rides are 8s, and then we go from there. Like a 6 is I think I've described as it's a roller coaster you'll ride one time every visit, and that's probably it. And then obviously 5s, 4s, 3s, that's the rides that like you ride once to get the credit and then never ride
Yes.
again. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to at first. I wanted every ride. So the 100th decimal point was for every ride to get their own unique score. I'll be honest, that ship sailed a while ago. I have duplicated
Oh, you
multiple
have? I didn't
sources.
know.
Oh, I have. I definitely have.
Because I know
Because I don't.
you re-record sometimes when you realized it early on. But
Yeah, I've done it so many times now. I'm like, you know what? I do. I give a lot of sixes and sevens,
yeah.
so at some point it was just inevitable. But there's no like science behind it. It's just kind of what comes out of my mouth at the time. Sometimes I do have like a little notebook that I check and use to compare now since I've done over 200. So I
Right.
kind of know like, okay, if I gave this one a 6.9, no, I think I like this one a little better than that one. So I'll give it a 6.93 or something. So
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, how does he remember? Like when he's recording those, like if he does the same score, is he like, oh no, wait, 6.42? That was this one, or
yeah.
you know? I was like, how does he? Like in early on, sure, but when you're up like to number 200, I had that thought the other day, so that makes more sense, you know?
Yeah,
That
no, I've duplicated for sure.
which
As
is
long as
fine.
like anything that's like an 8 or higher, I think I'm
Yeah.
good. So those all have different scores, but the ones in the middle, it is what it is.
So I will say we're recording on August 23rd, and as
Mhm.
of this recording, Iron Gwazi is leading X2 and then Fury 325. You know, Iron Gwazi fairly significantly ahead, 9.71.
Mhm.
I don't want you to spoil the future, but will this top three potentially be challenged? I know you still haven't been to that big Ohio park, at least officially. I follow you on social media. I know you've been there, but just
You
in
know,
general, and you got to go to Silver Dollar City. You never know,
that's
but
right. Oh,
there's a few there that
sure.
might get there. But do you think you're going to be challenged on that? Like, could it be, or that those are not going to do as well as they are now? They've been there for a while.
The top three, yes, for sure. I know my actual rankings, and there's still some rides in my top 10 that I have not covered. Like you said, there's a park in Ohio, there's a park in Florida, there's a big coaster in Pennsylvania that I've ridden but not covered yet. So little spoilers there for hints. So no, the top three for sure will be changing. The one is gonna be I don't know yet.
Trying to think of the park in Florida now. What am I missing? Oh, have you done Universal in Florida yet?
I've done one. I have not done
You haven't done
Islands of
Island Adventure.
Adventure yet.
I see. I
No,
see.
no. So
Yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, oh, there's a few. Not Hulk, but there's a few other ones that might. One
Hulk's
especially.
fun, but I
Yeah,
don't know if that's
I've been on
gonna
Hulk,
top
so I
three.
feel like I'm. You know, no, it was fun. I love that launch, but
Oh yeah,
you
no.
know that's like a 9.0 launch. The rest of it, I don't know.
A lot of inversions.
Yeah,
Never a huge thing with me.
yeah, I don't love. I mean, I don't mind a few inversions, but I'm with you. I don't love. This is why I struggle with sometimes with inverted coasters. I don't love the 7 inversion
No,
ones.
yeah. It
Oh,
depends. If they're drawn out and paced well, I can do it. But it's when it's like, and I mean, I'm 35, so
I'm older than that.
I'm not. Yeah,
Like 10
I'm not a
plus years
spring
older.
chicken anymore, though. I'm not 18 or
Right.
like 5 inversions in like 20 seconds. That's a lot.
I'm
So,
like 2, 3. Sure, I'm good.
yeah, I can handle usually up to 4, but
Yeah.
after that, it's like, okay, this is a bit much.
Well, I want to ask you too, just some coaster questions, more than
Sure.
specific to about the channel, the channel's awesome. You know, we'll
Thank you
talk a
so
little more
much.
about that. But you know, I often talk to people about Disney, but I'm a big coaster fan, even if though I haven't ridden as many. But I'm curious, like you mentioned that some are in your top 10, but you had some new rides. Are there any like first rides that you've had that you really surprised you? Like you did not expect something to be great and it just blew you away. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. The ones that I'm trying to think as I've been recording for the channel or just like in my life, even
Well,
like
I was
before
thinking the
the
channel, but it
channel.
could be in your life too. I mean, you know, I was only thinking the channel because it'd be more fresher in your brain than maybe 5 years
Sure.
ago, but it could be anything for sure.
Honestly, X2. I thought it's Six Flags Magic Mountain. For those that don't know, it's this insane like 200-foot straight down drop, but it's not a traditional train. You're actually on the side of the track, and the seats flip independently of the track. It's insane. I thought I would not particularly enjoy it because it's older. It's like over a 20-year-old ride now by a manufacturer, Arrow, that is
Right. Alan
not
Chokey,
aged
right?
particularly well for the most part.
No.
And some people have said, "Oh my god, this is super rough." I thought there was a higher chance of me disliking it than liking it, and it is currently in my top 5. it blew my mind. That's probably the one that really kind of surprised me the most, I think.
I haven't been to Magic Mountain, but I've been to California, but I end up going to Disneyland or Universal or whatever. I still need to. But that ride frightens me. Like I've seen videos of that and I'm like, yeah, the
It's
spinning. Oh, I don't know.
arguably maybe the scariest roller coaster in the States,
Right.
especially if you can handle height and like that doesn't scare you.
Mm.
It's X2 is a very intimidating looking roller coaster.
So I know you've ridden some new coasters too recently this year. Is there something that came out recently? I mean, I don't want to name them because then I'm just preempting what you're going to say. But is there a coaster that's come out that really blown you away? I mean, obviously Iron Gwazi is pretty recent, but I
Yes.
referenced that. But are there others that really have stood out?
As far as new ones, I mean, Velocicoaster, I haven't done it for the channel. That one's awesome. It was 2 years old now. I'm trying to think new for 2023. I mean, I had the fortunate opportunity to ride Two Tatis at
Right,
Parc Astérix outside of Paris, which was incredible. There's a very similar ride at Busch Gardens Williamsburg called Pantheon,
right.
which is very good, but it didn't blow. It kind of semi met my expectations. Nothing crazy. Whereas Two Tatis kind of upped that version a lot. Two Tatis was really good. Oh, Wildcat's Revenge at
Right.
Hershey was incredible. When that layout first came out, I'm like, oh, that's going to be, a standard RMC. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think it's one of my favorite RMCs, if not maybe my third favorite after Iron Gwazi and some other one in Ohio.
I don't
It's
know
so,
what you're
so good.
speaking of. Yeah, because that was the thing. I think everyone thought Air Force One which people enjoyed, was going to be the big
Which
RMC.
to be fair, I have not been on yet. So
Yeah, and I haven't either. But Wildcats Revenge. I mean, I remember watching it, and people are just, I mean, raving about it,
mhm.
and that's saying a lot given the competition from RMC. That people are like, this might be the best one. It's high praise.
It's a rare RMC that the second half is better than the first half, which I think is unique to most RMCs. So, and it really is so intense at the end, like you were just thrown out of your seat. It's awesome.
Yeah, Outlaw Run, and I don't know if you have you been to Silver City before?
I have not.
Oh, Outlaw
I have
Run at the
not.
end is just like, here's two more versions at the
Right.
end. It's just like, what the heck? I thought I was done. So that one's great, but it's older, so I don't know if I wrote it a few years ago when I wrote it, so it might be rougher now. So I don't know how it's going to hold up because it's one of the first ones.
Well, Sarah from Coast Studios, my friend, she famously had never gone. She finally
Yes.
just went, and I heard she really loved it. So, and I think her and I kind of have very similar opinions. So if she loves it, I think I'm excited, and I think Megan and I are gonna enjoy it as well when
Oh
we go.
yeah, and Time Traveler there is.
Yes,
Oh man, that's all I can say. I don't want to.
Silver City has been my most anticipated park for a very long time.
It's so good. I would almost want to be an annual pass holder there, even for the 4-hour drive. But speaking of Silver City, I'm curious. There have been some announcements like that, but from other parks too, about 2024. And is there something for next year that you're already excited that you've heard about so far?
I mean, I don't know if this is too obvious, but the reimagined Top Bill Jackster.
Oh, right.
It's going to be called Top Thrill 2.
Top Thrill 2.
Whether you like the name or not. I know, I mean, some people are a little disappointed in like how the launch isn't going to be initially 120 again. I can't wait. I think that's going to be incredible. They're going to have a backwards launch at 101
Oh my
miles
God.
per hour. That just seems borderline illegal. And then looking straight down, like it goes back up that spike. You're going to be looking like 350 feet straight down. And then it's going to do what the original ride did, like after all that. So I can't wait. That potentially could be like a top 5 ride, I think, for me.
I think about Mr. Freeze, which we were talking about before we started, and when it goes backwards, where you're facing forward, but it's like not even 200 feet, or it's like 180 or something. To double that,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Seriously.
So are you excited about the gravy themed Good Gravy for Holiday World? Is that interesting you?
That is so adorable. Actually, funny enough, I was just at Holiday World a few days ago.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I mean, I love when parks, sometimes when parks like, oh, a new family ride's coming, at least the enthusiasts are like, oh, okay, not what we had hoped.
Right.
But then when parks go out of the way to just make it so ridiculously over the top with theming. As enthusiasts, we appreciate that because it's like we're excited to ride almost for the joke, but
Oh
like
yeah.
we still enjoy parks doing something different. And it's not just when Six Flags kind of rethemes everything to Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and
Yeah.
to have a unique spin. You're in a gravy boat. Like who would have ever thought of that?
I've been a few times to Holiday World, and one, they have amazing. I mean, the Voyage and Raven Legend
Oh,
are all awesome, but this made me happy because one, it reminds me of something they would have at some strange park in Europe more than here, just from what I've
very
seen.
true. That's so true.
But I also like that it's like they were kind of missing like they have the really kids coaster and then Raven. And going with my daughters, even my daughter was like
Mhm.
7 or 8, she was like, no, I'm not ready for Raven. And that's like the next thing up. So they don't do any of them. So this
That's
is like an
very,
extra
very
step.
true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
like that's how like future roller coaster enthusiasts are made. You
That's how
can't,
Disney does it. Yeah.
yeah,
For
for
me.
sure. No, that's what Disney did to me. So
Speaking of Disney, I want to ask you some Disney coaster questions
yes,
here.
absolutely.
I went last to Disney World in March of 2022, and I missed Cosmic Rewind. So, which I think you have written, obviously.
Oh yes.
How good? I mean, because it's like, for an enthusiast to have Cosmic Rewind like in your top, I mean, on the channel, it's like, and it's still on the top 25 screen.
Oh yep. Hmm.
Like, why is that? I mean, I thought it'd be good, but why is it blowing so many people away?
If you strip the building and the theme and you just stick the roller coaster itself just in a field somewhere, it'll be good. It wouldn't be anything. It's all about the immersion
Mhm.
of that theme. That is still, and I don't know how it's ever going to be topped, the most pure fun I've ever had on a roller coaster. Just with the randomness of which song you're going to get, all just like the stars and everything flying by you. It's just, I always say there's two reasons you ride roller coasters, or two different reasons you ride roller coasters. One, to just have, out of body, thrilling, crazy experience. And then the other one is to just laugh and have a good time, forget about everything. And I think Guardians does that better than anybody. Like almost every time we've been on, we're like dancing
Mhm.
in the sea. Who dances on a roller coaster? That's what you do on Guardians, and it's just such pure joy. Like it's hard to explain unless you've been on it, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of those where it feels like so many different types of people, older, younger, coaster fans,
Mhm.
non-Disney, diehard Disney fans that were really skeptical because they're like, why are they putting that in Epcot? Then they wrote it and they're like, yeah, it's amazing. I love it. So it's like, yeah, okay. So Disney coasters though in general don't have a great reputation among some coaster fans, not all. But do
Fair.
you think they deserve more, like better attention than they sometimes get? I think it's changed a bit with Guardians and even Everest, though that's been there a while. But should they get more attention? I guess is the way to look at it.
I think so. I mean, I think particularly for Walt Disney World. I just went to Disneyland Paris for honeymoon, and I'll admit their coaster collection
No.
not the best, not the best at all. But Walt, so in going there, and then it made me appreciate what we got at Walt Disney World a lot more. I think there is a lot of enthusiasts that appreciates like Expedition Everest. It's a very unique layout, and
Oh
it's still
yeah.
very that backwards portion
Oh
is
my
still very,
God.
very intense. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Rock and Roller Coaster still holds up. Big Thunder Mountain, Space Mountain, it gives you that old school charm while still providing some thrills. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is there.
Yeah.
It's a cute ride. It's
okay.
just God, that wait is just
Oh,
ridiculous.
I've never waited in standby for that. I've either
No,
fast
it's a
pass or
must
even
fast
last
pass.
time I just said, how much does it cost? Because I was like, I can't do it. I can't wait
Right,
two
and then
hours.
even
Yeah.
Slinky Dog is really enjoyable. So
Oh
I,
yeah.
I think honestly, Disney World does a really good job with the roller coasters, and I don't know if I'm biased being a Disney fan before a roller coaster enthusiast, but I do. I have met enough enthusiasts that didn't necessarily grow up as a Disney fan, still appreciating
Right.
some
Right.
of them.
And now they have Tron, I guess, which I haven't ridden
That's
yet,
true. That's
but
true.
I don't know if you have.
I did very quickly. It was like we had a very. I wanted to see Happily Ever After the fireworks show, which I had
Right.
never seen before, and we we had got there. I don't know, maybe 8:30, and the show was at 9. So I was actually with Taylor and Sarah. and they're like, okay, buy a lightning lane. We'll hold a spot in the show. Just go run and ride Tron and meet us. That's literally what I did. I didn't have time to film or review, so that's coming later in the year. But it was really good. I would say the theming around you is definitely better than the ride itself. The ride itself's still fun, but I think I need another ride to truly grasp what Tron does.
Yeah, that's another one that I mean, I know it's been in Shanghai, but it's not like I've been to Shanghai, and but it looks. I'm excited, right? I've heard it's short, but it looks really cool.
It's stunning. Oh yeah, it's so beautiful. Yeah.
So I may have already stepped on this one, but is there a Disney World coaster that you think is not as good as maybe the line or hype entails?
Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Yes. Easy answer there. And yes, I know it's for families, obviously, but the problem is it's the train's a very small capacity, so there's only so much you can do. I just wish I did wish if it was a little longer.
Oh yeah,
even for kids, I think the kids would appreciate a little longer experience. And they market it as like the carts are supposed to sway. Like that was and I don't know, I barely noticed it swaying.
I would not notice if they hadn't told me that it was swaying.
Yes,
I mean, maybe like when you hit that one turn, like, oh, we're moving a little bit, but really, I mean, I enjoy it. I think it's really smooth and the indoor portion is really cool. It's just the capacity. I don't know how much they get, but it's not enough. I don't know. There's nothing they can really do right now.
No, it is what it is. Get a fast pass, hit it first, and go on your merry way.
Yeah. So what would you add as far as a coaster? Like any of the Walt Disney World parks, is there a type of coaster you would like to see them add? And I don't mean like a Giga or something. I mean, they only have so much space, but I'm curious if there's something you'd like to see them put in.
Can I add one to Disneyland?
Yeah, sure. Because Disneyland could use some help on a few.
So there's this is an idea I came up with actually a few weeks ago. So SeaWorld Orlando added a brand new roller coaster called Pipeline, which is basically it's a stand up. You're standing up, and you're literally on a surfboard, and it's so unique. Like I wouldn't say it's fun for the whole family, but I think once you're tall enough, it's not gonna like completely overwhelm you with intensity or thrills. It's just pure fun. My idea is if Disney's like California Adventure got that version and themed it to Lilo and Stitch and called it Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride.
I don't know. I mean, hey, I mean, they probably for sure have a live action or CG version of Lilo and Stitch coming out at some point. They could release it then. I think it's good. There's plenty of space. They could remove some things, I would say.
Yeah, and they onboard audio with the song playing.
I think
that would be as far as Disney World. I mean, I guess Animal Kingdom you could probably theme something. I don't know where you'd put it. Pandora type roller coaster.
Maybe in Dino Land with some of that area.
That's a good action
because they have that whole area that's just like got two tables and nothing now. So.
That's true. I mean, Rocky Mountain Construction just unveiled a new family wild moose coaster, so that would be a lot better than Primeval Whirl, which was there. And that was not a fan favorite for.
That was very painful. I've ridden that. And I've ridden the spinning coaster. Well, it used to be Tony Hawk. I'm trying to think of the name of it now. At Six Flags St. Louis, not as painful as Primeval World. I don't know what happened there. It's just really hurts.
You could theme like an indoor family coaster to dinosaurs, maybe with that new RMC. Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, Disneyland. Have you been to Disneyland so far? Or?
I have not. I actually haven't. I drove by. My wife and I went on a cross country road trip during COVID, just to get out. Outdoor experiences. We drove. I saw the Matterhorn. I'm like, oh, bye Disneyland. You're closed. That's the closest I've ever gotten.
No, I was there in June. I hadn't been there for years. Yeah, I mean, the coasters I think they've got a few duds there, but like Goofy Sky School they've got a few bad ones. So I think they could use that, especially at DCA, and I mean they have the Incredicoaster, but I think they could use some help there. I like the idea.
Yeah.
Well, I got to ask you about Paris because I went to Paris. It was 2006, so I went there before Crush's Coaster, before RC Racer. But I did ride that terrible Indiana Jones coaster that I don't even really want to think about anymore.
No.
But so I guess I'll just ask you this: what did you enjoy about Disneyland Paris beyond the coasters? Just like what was your experience like there?
I mean, Disneyland Park itself is absolutely gorgeous. Like, I
Oh yeah,
legit fell in love with that front entrance. Not like they have the hotel like facade,
yeah,
and they all like the fountains and the shrubbery, and they were playing like just like this soft like classical Disney music of like from Aladdin, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast. I'm like, I'll admit I was tearing up a little bit. Like I it was just so peaceful, and the park itself was gorgeous. And for me, I think it was my first time at a Disney park that wasn't Disney World, so
right.
it was just so surreal seeing a different castle and turning right and it's wait, that's Space Mountain. That's not Space Mountain though. Well, it's a different building and just different rides being positioned in different places. I think that was like honestly one of the coolest aspects for me. But then yet also still feeling like there's Main Street looked just like Magic Kingdom in Orlando, but I'm like, I'm in France. What? So yeah, no, the park itself was absolutely gorgeous. Walt Disney Studios is another discussion.
And you should have seen it in 2006. That's all I'm going to say. Because they didn't
Yeah.
have, like I mentioned, no Ratatouille. It was Rock and Roller Coaster, but it would not. They
Mhm.
don't have any sets. It was a weird Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yeah.
The weird Black Backlot Tour, which I don't know if you did that. That's Cars now, I guess.
No, it
But
was closed, unfortunately.
it was. They had an Armageddon show you missed when I was there. That was really terrible.
I remember hearing about that. Yes.
But yeah, so I will say they've made improvements, and I know they're making more improvements to that. But that park is kind of from the weird era when they didn't want to spend money, kind of like California Adventure was too, where they were doing
Right.
weird things. But I will say, I maintain you haven't done Big Thunder at Disneyland, but I think the Big Thunder in Paris is my favorite of the three I've done.
Oh, it was incredible. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was also surreal because the beginning and the whole ride is the same, but the ending, whereas Big Thunder Mountain Magic Kingdom, it kind of just ends.
Yeah, the last Bliff Hill, you're like,
So,
oh, we're done.
but at the Paris one, you got to get back. It's on an island, and you got to get back to the station, and you got to go back underneath. And that tunnel was so much fun. It's complete. Honestly, it felt like Space Mountain because you're completely in the dark and you're just going down this hill like super fast. I'm like, that was so unexpected and awesome.
Yeah, It's weird because it's like on Tom Sawyer Island in a way.
That's true.
But
Very true.
But there is obviously no Tom Sawyer Island. But it's like the centerpiece of that whole side of the park. Beyond Space Mountain on the other side, which you had I guess you had the Hyperspace Mountain. You didn't have the last version. I guess that's what they've have. When I went, it was Mission 2. It was like different. It wasn't Hyperspace or Jules Verne. So it was very
Interesting.
strange.
Okay. I will like
Yeah.
the Star Wars, like considering what they've done with like Rise
Yeah.
and Smuggler's Run at, Hollywood Studios in Florida. Even Star Tours is super well themed.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was just so cheap. Like,
Disneyland has that too.
Oh yeah, I was expecting so much more considering I have high expectations for Disney and Star Wars. And it was just the roller coaster itself was fun.
Oh
It was
yeah,
fun.
I've done it. Yeah.
But like, yeah, I would be a fan of them going back to the previous.
Yeah, it's weird because Disneyland, they were doing a special event when I went in May, like for Star Wars, they had Hyperspace Mountain,
Mhm.
but it's permanent for now in Paris. That's like what they're doing. And it's very weird to me because they have all that cool steampunk stuff and then it's Star Wars.
Yeah, I think I would guess they were just trying to latch on to like the sequels that came out, which most people agree not the best Star Wars. So I'm hoping, like, I mean, I know they got like new shows coming out in Disney Plus, but I'm hoping they go back to the old theme, especially since they already have a lot of the exterior theme to like the Jules Verne.
It's still kind of there, yeah.
Right. So I don't think it wouldn't take that much effort.
All right. Well, I have a few other coaster questions and a few other random questions before we finish. So, a lot of people that listen to this are more Disney fans, but might enjoy coasters. Like, if they're looking to go to like a regional park that has great coasters, but it's kind of that nice mix of theming it. Like, is there some that you would recommend? I mean, I know Silver City is a good example, but others that you've been to that you think like, because I think some people that just like Disney think of it and they think of like Six Flags and concrete and steel. But I know there's some great parks out there people might not know about.
Yeah, I'd say, Busch Gardens Williamsburg, I always mention it's like if Epcot and like a Six Flags combined, because you have incredible theming. Obviously, it's themed to all different countries, but obviously, the roller coasters are more intense than what you would find at Disney. Like that one, I think is a next step up for, let's say, like a younger Disney fan that loves Disney World but is now wanting to ride some bigger roller coasters. Dollywood is fantastic
Yeah.
for, again, incredible theming. Definitely more intense roller coasters than Disney, but they have some great family areas as well. Busch Gardens Tampa, I would suggest Williamsburg over Tampa. Tampa is the theming is great, it's beautiful, but it's very roller coaster centric.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Williamsburg is a little more well rounded.
Yeah, I mean, I went there when I was much younger, but I mean, since I mean, you mentioned Pantheon, they've got Verbolten and Apollo's Chariot, but also they added that new Dark Coaster, which I don't
Yep,
know if
that's
you've
true.
done, but I guess you
I have
haven't. You
not.
mentioned you haven't yet. I've heard not
Mhm.
heard great things about it though.
I think it's their Seven Dwarfs Mine Train where it's not worth the wait that it gets.
Low capacity,
Yeah.
short. Interesting. So speaking of bad, not that that's bad, but for the channel, can you tell me like what's the worst coaster you've covered? I mean, I don't know if it's Score or just the one that sticks in your head, like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe exists.
It's a ride it's the manufacturer is Zamperla, which they're doing great things now.
Mm-hmm.
The model type it's Volare. I'm still not sure how you pronounce it. You're in the flying position, but you are literally locked in a cage. And there is just like all this steel surrounding you, and it's just the roughest piece of garbage that I've ever. It's just your body and the coaster are just banging and clanging the whole time. They have one at Coney Island, and they have another one which is coming up in the channel in a few weeks at Canada's Wonderland. Pretty sure those are the only two in North America, thankfully. Yeah, those are just horrendous.
Yeah, I remember now, Coney Island, you had a few duds that you rode beyond the big ones,
Yeah.
right? Well, it's kind of weird because it's like all these little parks and little areas inside, kind of.
Yeah, Coney Island is an interesting park. I mean, they got the Coney Island Cyclone, which is
Right.
still running like a dream. So, like, it's worth going just for the Cyclone, for both the ride experience and the history. But yeah, they have some other not so great roller coasters there.
Well, on a completely different note, I heard on your Valley Fair video you mentioned you visited 16 baseball parks, which
Yes.
I have to ask you, have you been to Busch Stadium?
I have not. Funny story on that cross country road trip that I mentioned. We drove through St. Louis. Again, it was COVID, so no baseball. So I drove by the stadium.
It's right by the highway.
I know. No, Busch is very high on my list of the stadiums that I have not been to. I want to get that like behind home plate view with the arch.
Oh yeah,
in the outfield for sure.
Well, I will say if you were going this year, which I know you're not, it would not be hard to get tickets. That's what I will tell you. They are terrible.
I'm going in October, and I do not think they're playing in October this year. So.
No, unless I know this year the regular season does not go into October, unlike other years. So
right.
they will. Right now they're barely playing. Right, they're barely playing.
This is like honestly, since I was a kid, the first year the Cardinals are like bad. They've been incredibly consistent for the last like 20 years. So
people are so mad here too. You don't even know. People are so angry. They hate everyone. They don't hate all the players, but they hate a lot. So you're also a fan of the Patriots.
Of
the Patriots. I used to have a team here that once played the Patriots in the Super Bowl, but they're in LA, but we don't really go into that.
I don't blame you.
So the Patriots not looking that sharp. So how many wins do you think they're going to get? Because they have Mac Jones.
Right.
They just got Zeke. That's something. But how many wins, as an optimistic fan, do you think they will get?
I mean, they're in a tough division, tough conference, and I think their schedule is actually pretty tough. Honestly, I'm not expecting much. If they go 9-8, I'll be happy. I think this is gonna sound very arrogant, but like, I'm at a place seeing 6 Super Bowls. It's just like, it's kind of whatever at this point. Like it's not like my football fandom is going to like ever be topped the rest of my life from the last 20 years. So I'm okay with them being mediocre for a little bit, and I'm not going to be, crying over it.
Yeah, because even with the Cardinals, people always say, well, the fans, they're spoiled. But the Cardinals in my lifetime have only won the World Series three times, and one was when I
Mhm.
was very young. So only twice that I remember, but they've been very consistent. But the Patriots, I mean, I have to admit, there'll be times where I'm like, Tom Brady again. Anyone
Listen,
else? Oh,
I've always said if I wasn't a Patriots fan, I completely get hating them because I mean I hate the Yankees and the Yankees in my
yeah.
childhood, especially in the '90s, they
Oh.
won every single year, and that's thankfully they not so much since 2000, but
Not this
uh,
year.
no, I'm
They're
loving
not as bad as the Cardinals, but you would think they're worse.
it.
But
Yeah,
not to veer too much off into sports, but I just figured,
absolutely, yeah.
I would ask you about it. Well, landing back to your channel, though, I wanted to circle back. And could you tease us a little bit about places you're going? We already talked about a few, but places you're going to visit or you hope to visit kind of during the next few months or the rest of the year.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually just went on a very significant trip this past weekend. I'll just say it. I went to Cedar Point. So we're getting, and every single roller coaster was open that I
Everyone,
needed.
wow.
So 14 days at Cedar Point of reviews. And I also went to Indiana Beach for the first
Mhm.
time, Holiday World, and Michigan's Adventure. So those are coming up end of September, early October. And as far as future plans, Silver Dollar City is going to be a big one. I also plan on going to Six Flags Fiesta Texas, SeaWorld San Antonio, two parks that I've never been to before. I need to go to Six Flags over Georgia still, back to Virginia. So yeah, no, and Universal. I
Of
still need all
course.
the Universal rides as well. So
You got to do Hagrid's too. We didn't mention
absolutely,
that
yeah,
earlier. I mean, that
absolutely.
I'll be curious to see how that ranks. Hopefully, it won't be broken. You'll be good.
Oh, I hope not. I mean, honestly, I've been on it enough where if it's broken, I just might do it. Like, hey guys, I've been on this. I'm still reviewing
I'm giving this a 9. It doesn't. No, I
it.
don't know. I'm not
Well,
going to preempt what you would give it, but well, I'm
it,
excited to check out what's coming.
oh, I appreciate that. Seriously, means a lot.
So looking ahead to 2024. I don't know how you could do this again because eventually you're going to run out of coasters. But do you have thoughts about what's going to happen with the channel? I'm optimistic you're going to finish the year out. So,
Uh,
what do you think? I mean, do you think about still doing some more things, just maybe differently?
Correct. Yeah, the channel isn't going anywhere. Like you said, financially, I mentioned Megan. She is a amazing supporter for this year. If I, if I wanted to do the same thing next year, maybe not so much, and I would not blame her. Yeah, no, I would need to like literally move to Europe or China if
Right.
I wanted to do another 365. So no, I think it's gonna become more of a traditional style roller coaster YouTube. I'm a big like ranker. Like I like making lists, top 25s, top 10s. I'm gonna do some more of that. Like I said, I'm really big into trivia. I might try to think of ways to like kind of host like fun maybe game shows
Mhm.
with roller coaster trivia on the channel. The next few months is going to be a lot of brainstorming to see what I can do next year. But as
Yeah, I
far
think
as
about
what I'm doing this
yeah.
year, that is not going to be carrying over. I mean, I still any like new ride that I
Right.
encounter, I'll probably I'll do the review style that I do this year. It just won't be we're not doing it every day. And on it, but my name won't be a lie because I did do a 365.
Right. And
Not
you never
coaster
know,
forever.
people
It's
might
just
go back and watch all 365 after, that
that's the goal. That would be great.
they go back and they're like, wow, this is a lot, and then just power through them. So that's good. So do you think Good Gravy will make your top 25 when you write it? You think?
It'll make my top 25 family coaster rankings, I think. I don't know about overall. Probably not.
Yeah, I
Top
don't know.
25 coolest trains, I think. That's
Yeah,
for
I'm
sure.
thinking about the announcements, Kings Island, Georgia. None of those seem like I mean, I'm happy about them. All those parks need them, but Fire in the Hole same way. None of those
Hmm.
seem like 9.5s, but I'm excited to see some different ideas too.
Yeah, like if it's a solid family ride and I enjoy it, like if I give a family ride like over a 6, that means I like really, really enjoyed it. And it's one of my favorite of that category anyway. So I think those definitely have the potential to be up there because I'm huge on theme. If you have a good theme, you're creative, that's gonna score some bonus points for me.
Oh, for sure. Well, finally, if listeners want to check out, because I mean, they could just go to your channel right now and, not come up for air for many days. So where should they go if they want to check you out online or social media or wherever? Where should they go?
Definitely. I mean, Coaster365 on Twitter. That's where it all started. I still do daily tweets every single day, different roller coaster. Also on Instagram, Coaster_365. I'm still trying to kind of learn Instagram. That's definitely
Me too.
Of Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Instagram is my third, platform. But trying to be more active on there. And then, of course, Coaster365 on YouTube, videos every single day through the rest of the year.
Well, Bryant, this has been awesome. I really like the channel. I've enjoyed watching kind of it evolve as you get more comfortable with the tech, but it's been great the whole time and really looking forward to the rest of the year. And thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, Dan, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. Seriously, just getting to talk roller coasters and Disney is like, I could talk about those two topics all day. So thank you so much, Dan. It means the world for your support and having me on tonight.
I want to give a big thanks to Bryant. His channel, Coaster365, is so cool, a lot of fun. I think you should definitely check it out, even if you just want to check out the Disneyland Paris coasters, but there's so much more to it. Another thing I would love for you to be involved in is my upcoming podcast on updating Spaceship Earth. If you have any ideas or thoughts on ways that you would update it, it can be small, it can be one scene, it can be the descent, it can be music, narrators, the whole theme. You could start over. I would love to respond to your ideas on the podcast. So you can either just send me an email, dan@tomorrowsociety.com, contact me on any of the social media platforms with your thoughts. You can just send me a few paragraphs. Or if you're very ambitious, you can record an MP3. You can even just use the voice memos on your phone. Couple minutes, try to keep them below 5 minutes. Give me your thoughts. I would love to play your ideas on the podcast and respond to that. Would be very cool. The deadline for submissions is Friday, September 15th. So I would love to talk about your ideas on the show. One other fun thing I have been doing is putting transcripts together from some of my favorite classic podcasts. I've been focusing in on the interviews with Disney Imagineers and some composers, people that work behind the scenes on the parks. So I've been adding those periodically. I always post about them on Facebook or Twitter. Just added the transcript with Joe Len Cicero about Mystic Manor and his work in Tokyo and Toontown at Disneyland, so much cool stuff. This has been a fun way for me to go back and then look at what I did in the past and remember things about attractions that I'd forgotten. So if you want to help support this project, the best way to do so is to become a member of the Tomorrow Society through Patreon. You get access to some really cool perks, including bonus podcast episodes. I just created a tribute episode to Maelstrom that just was released on the Tomorrow Society Bulletin. You can find that and a lot more. Go to patreon.com/Tomorrow Society. I also wanted to give a shout out to my latest member of the Tomorrow Society, James Shearer. James, thank you so much for helping to support the show. I really appreciate it. Or if you would just like to make a one-time contribution, you can buy me a Dole Whip. Go to tomorrowsociety.com/Dole Whip to learn more. I would also love it if you were able to give a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. It really helps people to find out about the show, and I can't say enough how much I appreciate it. You guys are awesome, and all the support really makes a difference and keeps me excited about doing these episodes. Thank you so much for listening to this show with Bryant of Coaster365. I will talk to you again next time.